I used to serve my country as a soldier. Now I dig through dumpsters for food. My name is Marcus. I saved 17 lives under fire in Afghanistan. I came home with a medal, a blown knee, and nightmares that made me jump at forklift beeps. Today I know which Panera throws out bagels at 10, which McDonald's has the cleanest bathroom, and how to look normal when your home is a parking lot. People think homelessness happens fast, a pink slip, an eviction, done. Mine took 16 months of waiting for one check that never came. The VA lost my paperwork. Then they lost it again. I had a truck, then I didn't. I had pride, so I didn't. Call my daughter. She was starting nursing school. I told her I was fine, just between apartments. For 2 years, I kept lying while I learned which churches serve meals, how expensive being poor really is, and why some people drink mouthwash. I went from combat medic to camp medic, treating infected feet with veterinary antibiotics behind an abandoned mill. Let me tell you about the night I chose my truck over my daughter's couch, and the pride that almost killed me. When you've worn the uniform and saved lives in war, what stops you from saving your own? The first night I slept in my truck, I parked behind the Walmart where I'd bought Sarah's 10th birthday bike. That was 7 years and a different life ago, when I had a credit card that worked and a daughter who still thought I hung the moon. Now it was October 2019, the temperature dropping to 42 degrees according to my phone, and I was arranging an Army surplus sleeping bag across the bench seat of my 2004 Chevy Silverado. I'd learned about efficient packing in Afghanistan. How to make a rucksack hold everything you needed to survive. How to sleep anywhere, guard towers, convoy trucks, forward operating bases where mortars might wake you at any second. But this was different. This was Fredericksburg, Virginia, and the enemy was my own pride. The truck smelled like old coffee and the pine tree air freshener hanging from the mirror. One of those black ice ones Sarah said smelled like toxic masculinity when she was learning all those college words. I positioned myself away from the security cameras, though I doubted anyone was watching at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. The lot was half empty, just a few RVs at the far end where they always parked, and me, trying to look like I was waiting for someone. I pulled out my phone and counted my money again. $247.18. That's what 11 years of military service and 3 years of warehouse work had boiled down to. The VA disability check was pending, had been for 4 months now. Every time I called, they said the same thing. Still processing, Sergeant Chun. These things take time. Time. I had plenty of that now. No job to wake up for since the warehouse let me go. The forklift test did me in. The beeping sounded too much like the vehicle warnings in Kandahar, and suddenly I was on the floor, covering my head, yelling for everyone to take cover. The supervisor was understanding but firm. Liability issue. He said, "You understand." I understood. I couldn't tell Sarah any of this. My phone lit up with her text. "Night, Dad. Love you." I typed back, "Love you too, kiddo. Sleep tight." I stared at the cursor blinking after my message, wanting to add something else. "I'm sleeping in a Walmart parking lot." Or, "I'm sorry I'm not the father you deserve." Or just help. But I hit send and put the phone away. Through the windshield, I watched families loading groceries into minivans. A woman about my age struggled with a flat-screen TV, and her husband, presumably, rushed to help. They laughed about something, and she kissed his cheek. Normal Tuesday night for normal people. I'd been that normal once. Before Afghanistan. Before the divorce. Before the VA lost my paperwork the first time, then the second time, then insisted I'd never filed it at all. Before the bill stacked up and the foreclosure notice came and I had 48 hours to leave the townhouse I'd rented for 3 years. The engine warning light flickered on the dash. Had been doing that for weeks. The mechanic said it would be $400 just to diagnose it, another $1,000 minimum to fix whatever was wrong. Might as well have said $1 million. I pulled out the manila folder with my VA paperwork and spread it across the steering wheel. Form DD 214, proving my service. Form 21-526 easy, the disability claim. Medical records from 3 different doctors. Confirming PTSD, traumatic brain injury from an IED that flipped our Humvee, and the knee that barely bent anymore from carrying Specialist Martinez 200 yards to the medevac after he took shrapnel to the chest. Martinez made it. Sent me a Christmas card every year with pictures of his kids. "Thanks for giving me the chance to be a dad," he wrote last year. I wondered what he'd write if he knew his hero was living in a truck that I made notes in the margins with a pencil, dates to follow up, phone numbers to try again, the name of someone's supervisor's supervisor that another vet had given me at the food bank. Tomorrow I'd go to the library, use their phone to sound more official. Tomorrow I'd fix this. The engine warning light flickered again, then stayed on solid point 3 weeks in. I had my routine perfected. McDonald's bathroom at 6 a.m. sharp. Early enough that the night shift was too tired to care, but before the morning manager arrived. I kept a razor and travel-size shaving cream in my jacket pocket, a bar of soap wrapped in a plastic bag. Cold water shaving in a fast food bathroom mirror became an art form. Look presentable. Look normal. Look like someone who had somewhere to go home to. The library opened at 10, and I'd learned which computer terminals were farthest from the librarian's desk. 17 job applications sent this week. 0 responses. My email inbox was a graveyard of automated replies. We've received your application. Thank you for your interest. The position has been filled. The worst part was the skills section. What was I supposed to write? Expert at stopping arterial bleeding. Can operate under mortar fire. Qualified to identify IED patterns. None of that translated to civilian work, apparently. Even the warehouse jobs wanted forklift certification now, the one thing I'd proven I couldn't do. Today was different though. Today I had an interview at a distribution center. 4 to midnight shift, $15 an hour, no benefits for 90 days, but it was something. I'd pressed my one good shirt at the laundromat, spending $3 I couldn't afford to make myself look like I could afford things. The physical test came first. Lift this box, carry it there, stack it here. My knee screamed, but I kept my face neutral. The forklift portion was last. I could feel my hands starting to shake before I even sat down. Just drive it around the cones, the supervisor said. Nice and easy. I turned the key. The machine beeped to life, 3 sharp chirps. Just like the MRAP vehicles we used for convoy security. My vision tunneled. The warehouse dissolved, and I was back on Route Jupiter, Taliban country, where every piece of trash could be a bomb and every beep meant, "Sir? Sir, are you all right?" I was on the floor again, curled against a pallet of boxes. The supervisor and 2 other workers stood over me, concerned and uncomfortable. I knew that look. I'd seen it at the last job and the one before that. "I'm sorry," I said, getting to my feet. My knee buckled, but I caught myself. "I'm fine. I can. Maybe this isn't the right fit," the supervisor said, not unkindly. He had a Desert Storm hat on. He knew. "Thank you for your service." That phrase, "thank you for your service," it had become a polite way to end conversations, a dismissal wrapped in patriotism. "Thank you for your service, but we can't use you." "Thank you for your service, but you're a liability." "Thank you for your service. Now please leave." That I sat in the truck afterward, staring at the fuel gauge hovering just above E. The phone rang, Sarah's ringtone, the theme from that doctor show she loved. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Dad, oh my God, I got in. UVA nursing program. Full acceptance for spring semester. I'm going to be a nurse like I always wanted. Call me back. I want to celebrate with you. I listened to it 3 times. My daughter, my brilliant daughter, following her dreams while her father sat in a parking lot trying not to cry. I typed out a text. "So proud of you, baby. In a meeting now, but we'll call tonight. You're going to be amazing." Then I drove to the food bank on Cowan Boulevard. The line was longer than usual. Thursdays were always bad, but today wrapped around the building. I recognized a few faces from previous weeks. We didn't talk, just nodded. Everyone here had a story, and nobody wanted to tell it. Eddie Ramirez was 3 spots ahead of me. Another vet. I could tell by the way he stood, even with his back messed up. We'd talked once before, comparing VA horror stories. He turned and saw me, walked back. "Marcus, right? How's the claim going?" "Still pending." "You." He laughed, bitter and knowing. "Denied again." "Wrong form," they said. "After 18 months." He looked at my truck, then back at me. "You sleeping in there?" I didn't answer, which was answer enough. "There's better places to park," he said quietly. "Safer. I'll text you some addresses. And if it gets too cold." He paused, choosing his words. "There's a camp behind the old paper mill. Good people. Rules, but good people." Ford Motor Credit called while we were talking. I let it go to voicemail too. They came for the truck at 4 a.m., December 13th. I woke to the sound of chains and a diesel engine, that particular rumble of a tow truck that sounds like Judgment Day. I had maybe 30 seconds to grab what I could: the duffel bag, my medication bag, the folder with my VA paperwork. Everything else: winter clothes, the photo album from Sarah's childhood, my DD 214 in its protective sleeve, went with the Silverado as they hauled it away that I watched from behind a dumpster, the cold so sharp it felt like breathing glass. 28 degrees according to the bank sign across the street. No truck meant no shelter, no storage, no pretense of normalcy. Just me, a duffel bag, and the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The bus station stayed open all night, so I walked the 2 miles there, my knee locking up every dozen steps. The security guard gave me a look but didn't say anything when I went into the bathroom. I changed into my last clean clothes: jeans and a flannel shirt that Sarah had given me 2 Christmases ago. "You look like a lumberjack," she'd said, laughing. A suburban lumberjack. I threw away the Ford Motor Credit letters I'd been carrying. No point now. The Victory Mission shelter had beds available, a miracle in December. The intake process felt like basic training in reverse. Empty your pockets. No weapons. No drugs. No alcohol. Here's your bed number, 47B. Showers are from 6 to 7 p.m. Lights out at 9. Chapel service mandatory if you want breakfast. The room held 40 beds, 20 on each side, with about 18 inches between them. The man in 47A was coughing something wet and persistent. The man in 47C talked to himself, a constant stream of arguments with someone who wasn't there. The smell, unwashed bodies, industrial disinfectant, and something else, maybe despair, made me breathe through my mouth. I lasted 2 nights. The second night, someone went through my bag while I was in the bathroom. My medications were gone. Prozazine for nightmares, sertraline for the depression that felt like drowning in slow motion. Without the Prozazine, the dreams came roaring back. Kandahar on fire. Martinez bleeding out. The IED that should have killed me but only killed Thompson. I woke up screaming, and 3 staff members were holding me down. "You need to leave," the shelter director said, not unkindly but firmly. "We can't have disruptions like this. There are families here." So I left. It was 3 a.m., snowing lightly, and I had nowhere to go. I walked to stay warm, my knee grinding like broken glass with each step. By dawn, I was behind the 7-Eleven on Route 1, sitting on my duffel bag, trying to figure out how to tell Sarah I couldn't come to her celebration dinner next week. That's where Eddie found me. "Jesus, Marcus, you look like death." He had 2 cups of coffee, handed me one without asking. It was terrible coffee, but it was warm, and warmth was everything. "Truck. Got repoed," I said. "Shelter. Didn't work out." He nodded like he'd heard this story before. Probably had. "That camp I mentioned. Behind the paper mill. It's not pretty, but it's better than freezing. There's rules, though." "What kind of rules?" "No stealing. No violence. Everyone contributes. Something, money if you got it, labor if you don't. Keep your area clean. Don't bring cops around." He studied me. "You were a medic, right?" "In Afghanistan." "Yeah, we could use a medic. Tommy's got a foot infection that's getting bad. Catherine, she works at a vet clinic. She's been getting antibiotics, but nobody knows the dosage for humans." I thought about my apartment, the one I'd lost 6 weeks ago. It had been small, just a 1-bedroom in a complex that had seen better days, but it had walls and a door that locked and a refrigerator that kept food cold. I thought about the life I'd had before that, the house with Sarah and her mother before the divorce, before Afghanistan, before everything went sideways. "There's rules," Eddie said again, and I realized he was trying to prepare me. "Dennis runs things. He's fair, but he's strict. You'll need to pull your weight." "I can do that," I said, though I wasn't sure what weight I had left to pull. Eddie stood, gestured for me to follow. "Come on, let's get you settled before the storm hits. Weather says we're getting 6 inches tonight." As we walked toward the tree line behind the abandoned mill, Eddie said quietly, "We look out for each other. There. It's not much, but it's something." Something. That was more than I'd had in weeks. The camp looked like a village built from America's leftovers. Blue tarps stretched between trees, pallets forming walls, one elaborate structure made entirely from salvaged doors, 6 of them creating a cube that someone had painted "Home Sweet Home" across in dripping letters. 14 people lived here in various states of shelter, and Eddie introduced me to the mayor of this forgotten place. Dennis Washington stood about 6'2", with electrician's hands and eyes that assessed everything. Eddie says you're a medic. He said instead of hello. Was Afghanistan, 2008 to 2010. Can you look at Tommy's foot? Kid's too proud to go to the ER. Tommy Bristow was 25 but looked younger, lying on a sleeping bag that had seen better decades. The smell hit me first, sweet rot, infection going bad. His foot was swollen twice its size, red streaks running up his ankle. This is cellulitis, I said. Maybe going septic. He needs antibiotics yesterday. Catherine, Dennis called. A woman emerged from a tent, maybe 35, wearing scrubs under a winter coat. Marcus here says Tommy needs antibiotics. I can get some, Catherine said. From work. But they're for dogs. Amoxicillin? I asked. And cephalexin. Same compounds, different dosage. I can calculate it. I turned to Tommy. But you really should. No hospital. Tommy said through gritted teeth. Can't afford it. Won't afford it. I understood. Hospital bills follow you forever, even to camps behind abandoned mills. Catherine returned that evening with a bottle, marked for a German shepherd named Zeus. I did the math, milligrams per kilogram, adjusting for human metabolism. Not exactly FDA approved, but better than watching him die. This is going to hurt, I told Tommy, pulling out my pocket knife. I'd need to drain the abscess. Dennis boiled water on the communal stove. I sterilized the knife best I could. Catherine held a flashlight. Eddie kept Tommy steady. Bite this, I said, handing Tommy a stick. The knife went in. Pus and blood poured out, and Tommy screamed through the stick. I worked fast, years of muscle memory guiding my hands. Drain, clean, pack. The wound with torn t-shirt strips Catherine had boiled. Twice a day, I told Tommy, handing him the antibiotics. Don't skip doses. The camp watched in silence. When I finished, Dennis nodded once. Approval, acceptance, something. You'll need shelter, he said. Storm's coming. Take the spot by. Tommy, he'll need watching tonight. Catherine handed me a tarp. Welcome to the neighborhood. As I started setting up my shelter in the freezing rain, I thought about the recruitment poster in my high school. Army Strong, it had said. They never mentioned this version of strong, the kind where you operate on people with pocket knives. And dog medicine, Dennis appeared beside me. You'll need better than that by tomorrow. Real storm coming. Donna Hutchins taught me how to build a shelter that wouldn't kill me. 60 years old, former bank teller at Wells Fargo for 23 years until the medical bankruptcy took everything. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd learned through suffering. Angles everything, she said, helping me position the tarp. Too flat, water pools. Too steep, wind gets under. Her oxygen tank wheezed as she worked. Cardboard for insulation, grocery store throws out plenty. Plastic sheets under your sleeping bag. Drainage trench around the perimeter. The storm hit that night like judgment. My tarp held mostly. Water pooled at my feet, but the cardboard kept some warmth in. I could hear Tommy moaning nearby, fever spiking despite the antibiotics. At 2 a.m., I crawled over to check on him. 103, I said, feeling his forehead. The dog medicine isn't working? Dennis asked, appearing from his elaborate doorhouse. It's working. Without it, he'd be dead. But he needs more. Dennis handed me his phone. Call your daughter. You said she's wondering where you are. I looked at the phone like it might bite. Sarah had called twice today. I'd texted back. In meetings, call you soon. Inside my tent, Dennis said, rain's too loud out here. His shelter was architectural. Wooden frame, proper peaked roof. Actual floor made from pallets. I dialed Sarah's number. Dad. Finally. I've been worried. Sorry, baby. Been apartment. Hunting. You know how it is. The lie came so easy it scared me. Did you find something? Still looking. Few good options though. Rain hammered Dennis's roof. How's the nursing program prep? She launched into excited chatter about textbooks and clinical rotations. I made appropriate sounds, asked right questions, played the proud father with a normal life. Dad, you sound tired. Just the job search. You know. I could lend you. No. Too sharp. I softened. No, sweetheart. I'm fine. You focus on school. After we hung up, I sat in Dennis's shelter, listening to the rain. He didn't say anything, just handed me a cup of instant coffee. Gets easier. He finally said. The lying. Does it? No. That week. Donna taught me the survival circuit. Monday breakfast at St. Mark's. Arrive by 7. Look presentable. Sit through sermon. Thursday dinner at Salvation Army. No sermon, but longer wait. Tuesday food bank. Wednesday clothing closet at First Baptist. Friday was free clinic day, but the wait started at 5 a.m. for a 9 a.m. opening. Never hit the same place twice in 1 week. Unless you have to, Donna explained. They start recognizing you, start asking questions. Tommy ran but tripped on a root, landed face first in mud. His phone, the one with Aisha's pictures, fell into the creek. He dove after it, came up empty, screaming. Donna couldn't run. Her oxygen tank was too heavy. I helped her carry it while she wheezed apologies. Not your fault, I kept saying. None of this is your fault. They handed us resource sheets as we left. Laminated cards with shelter addresses, all full, food bank schedules, we knew them already, and a suicide hotline, like that would solve homelessness. There are services available. One officer read from a script, not making eye contact. No one needs to live like this. By noon, we'd scattered. I was at the library, trying to use the computer when the announcement came over the speaker. The library will be closing early today due to COVID-19 concerns. All patrons must exit by 1 p.m. COVID-19. I'd heard the term on the news, but hadn't paid attention. Had bigger problems than some flu in China. The TV in the lobby showed the president at a podium. National emergency declaration. Coronavirus. Social distancing. Shelter in place. Shelter in place. I almost laughed. How do you shelter in place when you have no place? The library doors locked behind me. On the street, everything was closing. McDonald's, Starbucks, even the 24-hour laundromat. Signs everywhere. Closed for public safety. I found Eddie at the Salvation Army dinner line, which was now a grab-and-go bag handed through a crack in the door. Dennis got arrested, he said. Trespassing when he tried to go back for his tools. Where is he? County jail. Might get 90 days. For trying to retrieve his belongings. For existing wrong. The hospital ER was the only indoor space left. I spent that night there, clutching my stomach, pretending pain I didn't have to avoid the real pain I did have. Waited 4 hours for my name to be called, then left before they could examine me. New game, new rules. Everything was COVID now, and somehow that made being homeless even more invisible. The pandemic changed the architecture of homelessness. Shelters cut capacity in half, forced social distancing. Ironic since we'd been socially distanced from society. Already, libraries closed indefinitely. Restaurant bathrooms became forbidden territories. Even the 24-hour laundromats locked their doors at 8 p.m., but hospital ERs couldn't close. That became the new camp. Musical chairs in waiting rooms across 3 counties. Learn the schedules, rotate locations, develop believable symptoms. Abdominal pain at Spotsylvania Regional on Mondays. Chest pains at Mary Washington on Wednesdays. Dizzy spells at Stafford Hospital on Fridays. The masks actually helped. Suddenly, everyone was covering their faces, avoiding eye contact, staying 6 feet apart. I became invisible in a way I'd never been before. The weight loss, the unwashed smell, the hollow eyes, all hidden behind a blue surgical mask the hospital provided free. Food banks transformed overnight. Lines that had been long became endless as the newly unemployed joined us. People who'd had jobs last week now standing beside people who hadn't had addresses for years. The volunteers wore gloves now, handed bags through car windows, avoided looking at us directly. Like we're contagious, Eddie said one Thursday at First Baptist. Been treating us like disease for years. Now they got an excuse. I saw Dennis's empty spot in line and asked around. Word came back through the homeless telephone. No whisper network, but actual phones now since the government was handing out free cells for emergency communication. Heart attack, Eddie said quietly. 3 days ago, alone in a cell. Dennis, Washington, who'd built a house from doors and ran a camp like a small city, died in county jail over a trespassing charge. No funeral, no obituary, just gone. Tommy had disappeared entirely after the sweep. Someone said they saw him near the train tracks, thinner, walking that particular walk of someone using. The destruction of the camp had broken something in him. Or maybe losing his phone with Aisha's pictures, or maybe just the accumulation of losses that eventually crush everyone. Sarah called twice a day now, checking on me during COVID. Are you isolating, Dad? Are you safe? Very isolated, I said. Truthfully. Taking all precautions. You sound tired. Everyone's tired, baby. Strange times. I could bring you groceries. Leave them at your door. No need. I'm stocked up. The lies came so easy now, practiced and smooth. I was becoming expert at fictional, living while my real life happened in ER waiting rooms and food bank lines. One night at Mary Washington Hospital, I was pretending to have kidney stones when a woman in scrubs approached. You're the medic from the camp, aren't you? I tensed, ready to leave, but she sat down beside me. I'm Janet Morales, social worker. Tommy Bristow told me about you before she paused. Before we lost track of him. Said you saved his life. Temporary save, I said. Still counts. Look, I know someone at the VA who actually gives a damn. Dr. Patricia Reeves. She can cut through the bureaucracy. She handed me a card and a motel voucher. 3 nights. It's COVID emergency funding. Get some real sleep, then call Patricia. Monday at 9 a.m. exactly. She'll be waiting. The motel room broke me in ways the street never had. 4 walls, a door that locked from inside, a bathroom with hot water. I stood in the shower until it ran cold, then sat on the bed unable to move. Too soft, too quiet, too much like the life I'd lost. I ended up on the floor with a towel for a pillow, the carpet rough against my cheek, familiar in its discomfort. The TV talked about stimulus checks, $1, $200 going to everyone with an address, a bank account, a existence the system recognized. Janet had texted me Dr. Reeves's direct number. Monday, 9 a.m. I set 17 alarms, wrote notes to myself, practiced what I'd say. My name is Marcus Chun. Sergeant Chun. Service number. Monday came. 8:59 a.m. My hands shook like they had before missions in Kandahar. I dialed. Marcus? I've been expecting your call. No hold music. No transfer. Just a human voice that knew my name. Doctor. Patricia Reeves was former Air Force, she told me. Understood how the system failed veterans. She pulled my file while we talked, made a noise of disgust. They marked you incomplete because of a date format. You wrote month, day, year. The form wanted day, month, year. 16 months of waiting because of that. You're kidding. I wish. I'm walking this through personally. Every form, every signature. You'll have my direct number. Call me Tuesday, same time. The motel voucher expired Wednesday. Janet found another program, another 3 nights. I spent them staring at the ceiling, afraid to hope. Dr. Reeves called daily with updates. Resubmitted. Under review. Almost there. Almost there. I'd been almost there for 2 years, May 2020. Dr. Reeves called with updates like a battlefield. Commander reporting positions. Past initial review. Medical records confirmed. Rating determined. Each call, she treated me like Sergeant Chun, not case number whatever. The holdup was literally one date field, she said, disgusted. DD/MM versus MM/DD. The computer kept rejecting it. I volunteered at the food bank to stay busy, handing out bags through car windows. Saw Tommy there once. Gaunt, jaw clenched in that meth way, wouldn't make eye contact. I tried to approach, but he walked away fast. Let him go. Another volunteer said, can't save everyone. But I'd saved him once. His foot, anyway. The rest of him was harder to heal. News about Dennis came through the homeless network. Heart attack in county jail, May 3rd. No family to claim the body. The city cremated him, scattered the ashes wherever they scatter the unclaimed. I went to the campsite, or what had been the camp. Bulldozer tracks still visible in the mud. Said, Kaddish, though I wasn't Jewish and didn't know the words exactly. Listed everyone's names to the empty woods. Dennis, Tommy, Eddie, Donna, Catherine, Robert, all of us who'd made a home from nothing. Are you sitting down? Dr. Reeves called Wednesday. What? Because your approval came through. 1,437 monthly, plus 23,792 in back pay. I stared at the phone. She kept talking direct deposit information, healthcare enrollment, dental coverage, but I couldn't process it. Marcus? You there? I'm here. You're housed now. Or will be. This is over. Over. I didn't know what that meant anymore. The ATM screen showed $24,837.16. I checked it 5 times, printed the receipt, checked again. First time I'd had 5 figures since 2003, when I still had a family and a future that made sense. Janet helped me find an efficiency apartment. $750 monthly, no credit check with full year up front. The landlord looked skeptical until I counted out $9,000 in cash at the Chase branch. 100, 20, 40, 60, 80, 9,000 exactly. He handed me keys like they might burn him. The apartment was 400 square feet of everything I dreamed about lying on concrete. Working heat. Electricity that stayed on. A door I controlled. Roaches, yes, but indoor roaches. Water stains on the ceiling, but a ceiling. I went to Target, overwhelmed by choosing pillows. How many did a person need? Plates, did I need 4 or 8? I'd forgotten how to own things. Bought a pan, burned rice my first night cooking, set off the smoke alarm. The neighbors complained. Some of us work. Sorry, I said through the door. I'm new to what? Being housed? Having neighbors to disturb? Called Sarah, gave her the real address. You move? Better place. You can visit now. She cried. I knew something was wrong, Dad. I knew it. Everything's fine now. Is it? I looked around the empty apartment, mattress on the floor, 1 pan, 3 plates, all my possessions, fitting in one corner. It's better, I said. The camp gathered that Friday night around the single portable stove, sharing what everyone had gathered. It felt almost like family, if family meant people thrown together by catastrophe, pretending normal while watching downloaded TV shows on Catherine's tablet. Tommy's fever broke. He'd live. I'm not going to the hospital, Tommy said for the 15th time. His foot looked better but still needed real medical attention. The veterinary antibiotics had bought time, not cure. You'll lose the foot, I said. Maybe your life. You don't get it. He pulled out his phone. The screen shattered into a spider web of cracks. He showed me a photo, a little girl, maybe 5, bright eyes and Tommy's exact nose. That's Aisha, my daughter. I waited. Her grandma has custody. Says I'm unfit. Hospital records follow you, Marcus. Social workers show up. Reports get filed. I stay off the grid, maybe someday. He trailed off. I understood. The system that was supposed to help could destroy what little you had left. But by day 6, Tommy's temperature hit 104. The infection had gone deeper. We're going, I said. Walk or I carry you. I can't. Then your daughter grows up without a father at all. That what you want? It was cruel, but it worked. We walked 3 miles to Spotsylvania Regional, Tommy, leaning on my shoulder, stopping every 100 yards for him to rest. By the time we arrived, he could barely stand. The ER triage nurse took one look and got him into a bed immediately. I stayed, translating medical speak, advocating with terms I'd learned in combat medicine. Sepsis, cellulitis, potential amputation if untreated. Insurance? The registration clerk asked. No. Tommy whispered. She typed something. Annual income? 0. More typing. You'll receive a bill. Financial assistance applications are available. The bill would be $11,000. We both knew he'd never pay it. Another unpaid debt following him forever, but at least he'd be alive to be followed. They admitted him for 4 antibiotics. I stayed in the waiting room, using the hospital Wi-Fi to check my email. 17 job rejections. 1 request for more. Information that had expired while I was living in my truck. I called the VA from the hospital lobby. Call number 47 about my claim. Still processing, Sergeant Chun. These things take time. It's been 6 months. I show here it's only been 4 months since submission. I submitted in July. It's now January. I'm showing September submission. That was the resubmission after you lost the first one. I don't show any previous submission. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Tommy was discharged the next morning with proper antibiotics and wound care instructions. The bill would arrive at the camp. We'd use that address. It would join the pile of bills that followed everyone there. Medical bills, court summons, final notices for people with no money to notice with. The Uber back cost my last $20. Tommy cried the whole ride. Thank you, he kept saying. We look out for each other, I said, echoing Eddie. At the camp entrance, a police cruiser was parked, officer taking photos. Tommy grabbed my arm. They're going to sweep us. The officer saw us, made a note, drove away. We had maybe days, probably less. Catherine brought the news from the veterinary clinic where she worked, somehow still employed despite living in a tent. My boss heard from his cousin, who works for the county. March 3rd, 7 a.m. Health department order. We had 2 weeks. Dennis called a camp meeting around the communal stove. His leadership showed in moments like this, calm, strategic, military-like though he'd never served. "We scatter, we survive," he said. "Everyone memorizes 3 backup sites. If one gets swept, move to the next. We'll cache supplies at each location." The next days were about hiding what mattered. Donna and I dug holes for waterproof containers, birth certificates, military records, the documents that proved we existed in the system even as we lived outside it. My DD 214 went into a coffee can with my VA paperwork, sealed with duct tape, buried beneath a distinctive oak tree I'd find again. "Lost my birth certificate once," Donna said, patting dirt over her container. "Took 4 months and $80 I didn't have to replace it. Never again." The camp's last communal dinner happened February 28th. Everyone contributed something. I had 3 cans of green beans from the food bank. Tommy brought expired bread from a dumpster dive. Catherine splurged on actual ground beef, only slightly past its sell-by date. Robert Chun, no relation despite the shared name, played his guitar. We sang Johnny Cash songs badly. Everyone shared their before-life story. Dennis had wired half of Richmond's office buildings. Donna had approved loans for families like the one she'd been. Catherine had wanted to be a real doctor, not just for animals. "What about you, Marcus?" Robert asked. "Saved 17 people in Afghanistan," I said. "Couldn't save my own life when I got back." "You saved me," Tommy said quietly that we toasted with. A bottle of mouthwash someone had grabbed by mistake at the food bank, thinking it was blue Gatorade. The burn was awful, but the gesture mattered. That night, I told Eddie about Sarah. Really told him. "She's in nursing school. Thinks I have an apartment. My son thinks I'm dead," Eddie said. "Easier that way. Can't disappoint a dead man." We sat in silence, watching the fire die. "You going to tell her?" he asked. "When I get housed. When I can look her in the eye without shame." "What if that never happens?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Sarah texted at 11 p.m. "Dad, I'm driving down this weekend to surprise you. Can't wait. To see your new place." My hands shook as I typed. "Fumigation this weekend. Building management issue. How about next weekend instead?" "Dad, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, baby. Just want the place perfect when you visit." Dennis saw my face. "She knows something's wrong. Not this. She can't know this." He handed me his phone. "Call her. Tell her you love her. Don't let pride be your last conversation." But I couldn't. Pride was all I had left, and I met Sarah at Panera Bread after the most humiliating shower of my life. Catherine had gotten me a guest pass to Planet Fitness, told them I was her brother visiting from out of state. I washed my hair 3 times, shaved twice, tried to look like someone who had a home. Sarah was already there when I arrived, and the shock on her face told me everything. "Dad, you've lost so much weight." "Been working out." I lied. "You know, staying healthy." She didn't buy it. I could see it in her eyes. The same look her mother had when I came back from Afghanistan, when she knew something was broken, but I wouldn't say what. We sat across from each other, and I ordered just coffee. Black. $2.89 I couldn't afford. "Not hungry?" she asked. "Big breakfast. You know me." She slid $200 across the table. "For groceries." I slid it back. "I'm fine." She slid it toward me again. "Dad, please." I slid it back. "Sarah, I don't need." "Stop." Her voice was sharp. "Just stop. Mom told me about the foreclosure." My stomach dropped. "Your mother doesn't know. She knows you lost the apartment. She knows you're too proud to ask for help. And I know you're lying to me right now." We sat in silence. Around us, normal people ate their overpriced sandwiches and lived their housed lives. "I'm managing," I finally said. "Where are you living?" "I have a place." "Where?" "It's temporary. Just until the VA comes through." She started crying. "Right there. In Panera, my daughter who'd gotten into nursing school, who was going to save lives like I used to, cried for her failure of a father." "I have to go," I said. "Dad, I love you, Sarah. More than you'll ever know. And I'm going to fix this." I left before she could respond. That night, I slept behind the same Panera, eating a bagel from their dumpster, wondering if she could see me from the parking lot where she probably still sat. Tommy found me around midnight. He had a bottle of vodka someone had given him for pain. The foot still hurt, even though it was healing. "Saw your daughter leave," he said, sitting beside me. She was crying. "Yeah. You tell her." "No." He passed me the bottle. It burned going down, but less than the shame. "Called Aisha tonight," he said. "Her grandma hung up when she heard my voice." I'm sorry. We're all sorry. Doesn't change anything. We sat there, two fathers who'd failed, sharing vodka behind a restaurant where normal families ate. Around 2 a.m., Dennis texted the group phone. Sweep moved up. Tomorrow dawn. I thought about calling Sarah, warning her, telling her the truth. Instead, I finished the vodka and waited for morning. They came at 5:47 a.m., earlier than the promised 7. I woke to flashlights and shouting, that particular tone of authority that makes you move before thinking. Grabbed my medical bag and phone, left the sleeping bag, the tarp, everything else. Health department order. An officer bellowed through a megaphone. This is an illegal encampment. You have 15 minutes to collect personal belongings. 15 minutes to pack up a life. I watched from the tree line as Dennis argued with the lead officer, his hands gesturing at his elaborate doorhouse. 3 years of careful construction. This is my home, Dennis said. This is public property, the officer replied. And a health hazard. The bulldozer was already warming up. Eddie tried to salvage his tent, but an officer told him to hurry up or face arrest. Catherine sobbed as they destroyed her medical supply cache, thousands of dollars in antibiotics and bandages that had kept us alive, crushed under bulldozer treads like garbage. She visited that weekend, brought groceries, cooked spaghetti like I'd taught her when she was 12, and we still had a kitchen that felt like home. Dad, she said, finding my sleeping bag in the closet. Why do you have this? So I told her. Everything. Sarah held me while I cried. First tears since Kandahar. She was angry I'd hidden it, furious her mother hadn't told her about the foreclosure, heartbroken she couldn't help. I would have, I know. That's why I couldn't tell you. My neighbor knocked next morning. Donna. From the camp. Marcus? Thought I recognized you. She'd gotten housed through a different program, lived 2 doors down. We developed a routine. Coffee every morning, checking on each other without admitting why. 2 people pretending to be normal neighbors who just happened to know which dumpsters. Had the best food. I started volunteering at the shelter, teaching first aid, but really translating between the street and the system. Knew which questions mattered, which forms to prioritize, how to phrase things so case workers heard you. Catherine was there too, housed but volunteering. Running an unofficial clinic in the bathroom, treating infections with veterinary supplies. We didn't talk about before, just worked. Sarah visited every weekend. Brought groceries. I was learning to cook again. Found the cash I'd hidden around the apartment. Old habits dying hard. Dad, you have a bank account now. I know. This is $3,000 in a coffee can. Emergency fund. The coffee can is the emergency. She was right. But I kept the cash anyway. Security felt like paper money I could touch, not numbers on a screen that might disappear like everything else had. Tommy's death came through the news. Unidentified man found behind paper mill identified as Thomas Bristow, 25. I'd saved his foot but couldn't save the rest. Sarah held my hand. You tried, Dad. Trying doesn't count when people die. It's all that counts. I organized Tommy's memorial. At the campsite. Found Aisha's grandmother through Facebook. Tommy had posted pictures before his phone drowned. She refused to bring Aisha, but accepted my offer to mail Tommy's things. 12 people came. Some housed, some not. Catherine brought flowers stolen from a wedding venue. They'll just throw them out anyway. Eddie drove up from Richmond. Donna baked cookies in her new kitchen that we told Tommy stories. The good ones. How he'd share his last dollar. How he'd sing to himself when he thought no one heard. How he loved his daughter with a fierce pride that homelessness couldn't kill, even if everything else did. That I mailed his belongings to Aisha. The phone. I'd paid to fix the screen. Photos I'd printed from the cached files. His AA chip from when he'd been clean 6 months. A letter I wrote about her father's love for her, leaving out the rest. That night, I increased my shelter hours to 5 nights weekly. Became the unofficial veteran intake specialist. Knew exactly which triggers to avoid, which papers mattered, how to phrase needs as system-appropriate problems. You were out there, a new arrival said. Not a question. Yeah. How long? 8 months. How'd you get out? Luck. Help. Someone who gave a damn. He nodded, understanding that survival was random, that deserving had nothing to do with it. Text from unknown number. Is this Marcus? My dad Eddie said you saved someone. I need help. Eddie's son. The one who thought his father was dead until he wasn't. Eddie was dying when I got to Richmond. Liver failure painted him yellow. abdomen swollen with fluid that wouldn't drain. But his eyes were clear when he saw me. "Marcus, you came. We look out for each other." His son Michael stood in the corner, uncertain. 28 years old, insurance adjuster, trying to understand how his father went from Marine to streets. "Tell him," Eddie said to me. "Tell him it wasn't about him." So I told Michael about the camp, about his father sharing his last coffee, about the dignity Eddie maintained even when sleeping outside, about the community we'd built from nothing. "He talked about you constantly," I said. "Had your school pictures in his wallet." Eddie died 3 days later. Michael asked me to speak at the funeral that I wore my only suit, told the church about Eddie's generosity, how he'd found me behind a 7-Eleven and saved my life with bad coffee and directions to the camp, how he'd check on everyone during freezing nights, how he never stole, never fought, never lost his humanity despite losing everything else. Sarah drove up for the funeral. Met my street family, Donna, Catherine, others who'd survived. Afterward, she said, "They love you, Dad. We saved each other. That's what love is." That week, Dr. Reeves called. "There's a peer counselor position at the VA, helping veterans navigate the system. Interested? I don't have a degree. You have something better. You survived it." The interview was formality. They needed someone who understood both sides of the desk, someone who knew why veterans didn't trust the system, someone who'd been there. "Why do you want this position?" they asked. "Because I've been them. I know what they're not saying. I know what questions to ask." I started the next Monday, December 2020. $18 hourly plus benefits, helping veterans navigate the system that almost killed me. My first client reminded me of myself. Proud, angry, suspicious of help. "They lost my paperwork 3 times, he said. "They lost mine 4 times. Let me show you the back channels." Sarah graduated, got an ICU position at MCV. I sat in the crowd, remembering buying her 10th birthday bike at the Walmart where I'd first slept in my truck. Full circle, but spiraling up now instead of down. She introduced me to her boyfriend, Brandon. Good kid, called me sir, had that earnest look of someone who'd never been hungry. At Christmas dinner, Sarah cooked. I brought pie from an actual bakery. Brandon asked about my service. "Were you in combat, sir?" I told the funny story, the one about the camel that wandered into our firebase. Everyone laughed. Didn't mention the 17 lives I'd saved or the dozens I couldn't. Later, alone in my apartment, I pulled out the sleeping bag, held it, smelled it, still had that campfire smoke smell. Put it back in the closet, not ready to throw it away. Maybe never would be. Looked out my window, saw someone sleeping in a car. Tomorrow I'd knock on their window, offer resources. Tonight, I just watched, remembering October 2019, that first night thinking it was temporary, between housed and unhoused, 3 missed checks, 1 medical crisis, 1 bad month. The margin was razor thin, and I balanced on it daily, made coffee with good grounds now. Still drank it black. Still saved half for later, habit from when later wasn't guaranteed. Phone buzzed. "Sarah, Dad, I'm pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather." Grandfather. I'd barely figured out how to be a father again. "Dad, you there?" "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Spring 2021. Sarah's belly grew while I learned to be someone's father again, preparing to be someone's grandfather. The VA job taught me patience, sitting with veterans who trusted nothing, translating their fury into forms the system could process. "The system's designed to exhaust you," I'd tell them, "to make you give up." Don't. Some listened. Some disappeared. I kept their files active, knowing they might return months later, hungrier, more desperate. Finally ready, Tommy's daughter Aisha sent a thank you card through her grandmother. Crayon hearts and "Thank you, MR," in shaky letters. I kept it on my desk next to Sarah's ultrasound. The campsite became a strip mall. Starbucks where Dennis's doorhouse stood. Subway where Tommy used to sit showing me pictures of Aisha. Sometimes I bought coffee, $5.87 for a large, and sat in the parking lot, watching people rush past places where humans had fought to stay human. Sarah had the baby in September. Oliver. Marcus, after me. When Brandon asked about the name, Sarah said, "My dad's a survivor. I want Oliver to have that strength." I held my grandson, this tiny perfect thing who'd never know hunger, cold, or the specific exhaustion of fighting systems. Meant to help. But I'd know. I'd remember for him. Still kept the sleeping bag in my closet. Still hoarded food. Still counted my cash stashes monthly. Some wounds don't heal. They just scar over. Functional, but never forgotten that at the VA, I became known as the one who could reach the unreachable. The ones who screamed at receptionists, who threw paperwork, who gave up, send them to Marcus. I spoke their language. I'd been them. Last week, a young vet, maybe 25, Tommy's age, sat across from me. Lost his apartment. Living in his car. Too proud to tell his family. It's temporary. He said that I remembered saying those exact words. Okay, I said. Let's make sure it is.